This PodClip is brought to you by Paradigm Human Performance.
And that question is great. What could go wrong? Here's what we've discovered. When you ask the question, what could go wrong today? The question, what's different, is fantastic. When we ask what could go wrong, we usually get the answer to the question, what has gone wrong? So we have that discussion of things that we know have gone wrong. Yeah. When we ask the next level question, what's the worst credible thing that can happen? We get a completely different answer. Because now people are using their creative brain to say, okay, I've got two criteria. It's the worst and it's credible. So when you have that conversation, it's a very rich conversation. So somebody says, well, we could all die. Okay, tell me how that could happen. Well, I mean, it's an excavation, so if we don't control it right, somebody could fall in and the walls could cave in. Okay, what are we doing to prevent about that? Because, we didn't have that conversation on what could go wrong. On what could go wrong, you said, well, the walls could cave in. There was nothing about how James could be standing on the edge and be taken in. That didn't come out until what's the worst thing that can happen. And if you protect against what the worst thing that can happen is, you start really protecting against some of the other things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
But back to your statement, the leaders should be having those discussions. And remember when we said if you give leaders models and have them use them, then the workers will use them. A pre-task brief would be called something different for a leader, but it's the same damn thing. What could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? I've seen incidents. A guy got his fingertip cut off. And ultimately, it went back to a management decision to tell the purchasing department that they weren't allowed to buy anything in the next 2 quarters that wasn't on the critical equipment list. Go back to that decision and say, what's the worst thing that could happen, or what could go wrong here if we do this? What are some of the things that may not be on the critical equipment list that we might need? What's the worst thing that could happen? Their worst thing that could happen probably wasn't someone gets their finger cut off. But isn't it amazing that was tied so directly to that manager decision to put a hold on what they were allowed to buy?